Okay, so just kind of go down the list. Definitely went for the best components available. If anyone asks you, like, what's the build? What's the build? Just say Prometheus and Laylax. Um, I'm sorry, Lone X. Why did I say that? Prometheus and Lone X is most of the build. As far as like hop up and nozzles go, you'll see Matrix CNC. I feel like those take a lot of abuse, but they're kind of picky with magazines. I've noticed that hop up, some of the cheaper magazines, you'll kind of have feed issues. And honestly, even with some of the nicer magazines, you'll have feed issues. You'll figure out which magazines like to hop up the most, and you'll just run with those. Um, Obviously, I go with Maple Leaf for the hop up bucking. I went with an R hop uh, with the 6.01 millimeter barrel. So it's going to be extra tight, um, and hopefully the grouping will be super, super consistent. As far as the gun itself goes, when I took this thing apart, I was really surprised by the poor build quality. Not gonna lie, this was by far the worst gearbox I've ever probed through. And it's kind of funny because after the fact, I went ahead and looked up like what, like let's say I wanted to just throw this gearbox out altogether because I spent a lot of time cleaning this thing up and correcting it. I mean, if I were to have been charging hourly from like a tech standpoint, that would have just been retarded, and it would have been just better to just have bought like a higher quality gearbox. But when I get onto Reddit and I'm looking around and asking, hey, what do you guys recommend for a gearbox? Because I've never even looked into really replacing one. Um, it's pretty funny because most of the comments are, why are you even replacing the gearbox? And then most of the replies are, um, because it's a Lancer. It's a Lancer gearbox, and I gotta say, wow, I can confirm. Um, but we'll just keep moving on with this. Uh, the full automatic problem. Every time you plugged in a battery, it stayed in full auto. Here's your issue. It was a MOSFET. When the gun was assembled, the technician must have been having a bad day and overlooked the chip, or I'm sorry, the board actually got pinched where the buttstock mounting screw is. So I thought that was fucking funny. I went ahead and did my best. There's one of these. That's, yeah, this one right here. You can really see that where that chip got actually pushed down. I don't even think that's a chip, but I took all of this off, resoldered it back on. I resoldered this little guy back on. You can see how small it is. Probably took me about an hour's worth of time just to try to recover this, and then I ended up finding out that the board itself was just horribly, horribly, horribly split down the middle, oddly enough, and the connections were just so abused. It's like, we're past the point of saving at that point. But I gave it a try, and it was just too messed up. Um, this is just kind of a little overview of the build. When I was midway through, how does one zoom on this? Boom, 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 boom. So I have her guts all out right here. Um, just kind of showing. Yeah, don't save what I had going on here. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and skip to this image right here. This is a prime example of what I'm saying with like poor, poor build quality. Um, is all this like extra metal shavings. Whoever molded this gearbox did not take the time to go back through and clean it up and get rid of all the burrs. This is after I've cleaned it up and re-greased it. My God, it was terrible. There was this right here, boom. So the gearbox was full of these little metal shavings. and it was pretty impressive. So I'll go ahead and pop this one open. See with the knife right here how I was able to just come in. You know, these metal shavings, this is where a gear sits and spins at very high RPMs. And this fucking thing is just full of these like chunks of metal that have been like welded and pushed out of the way. So I went through and I physically deburred it, we'll say, um, and kind of just polish these areas off a little bit. You know, I didn't get like go crazy with the grinder and just remove a bunch of material and make it like, you know, I kind of just smoothed everything out, made it to where there wasn't going to be any more free floating material. I mean, my God, even with this video right here, you can see, you know, this gun was barely used and how much just free floating metal buildup was already in there. And just, you can see how that thing wasn't even properly shimmed. It was, you know, whacking around in there. And it's just, you know, for a gun that hadn't been used that much, it looks like it's kind of, you know, it was killing itself. So it's pretty cool we were able to get in here and soup that bad boy up. Another common thing that I went ahead and did here is manufacturers. You see, there's four holes right here. Typically, the manufacturer will only put one screw in each side, and they'll short you the other two screws. So I've got an extra screw set here. I was able to make that a more solid mount with four screws. There we go. And that was just the two right there set off the side. They give you these two dinky ass screws, so it's solidly mounted now. Um, oh, what the hell was I pointing out with this? The soldering job was rough. The wire placement with the soldering was rough. This whole gun was just basically kicked in the nuts. You can kind of see in the background, this was the old grease that was in there, how it's just full of like metal shavings. It's wild. I have never seen one that bad. Here's the reversal latch, and you can just see like there's just chunks of metal with the grease. It's wild. Just dirty fucking dirty stinky bullshit. And then this is what it looks like when it's all cleaned up, you know, and when I went and greased this thing, I, you know, gave it that proper thin layer of grease, you know, where the contact was going to passively be, and then I kind of give it just a little bit extra grease where the contact's going to be more frequent, you know, like the tips of gears. And I do my best to not over grease because you don't want that to flick everywhere, and you don't want to coat the thing with it where dust can just collect up, you know. And it's just crazy the difference of what some people will just let kick out the door as far as quality control goes. So this image right here is pretty much the final product. So this is like a good way to just go in and just see, you know, it's all properly cleaned up, greased, all the aftermarket components are put in there. I mean, this is kind of more so for the nerds who work on these things. So I'll send you this picture for when you want to show it off at the field. And then be like, what are you running in it? Just keep saying the Lone X and Prometheus for most things. I left the gear set at 18 to 1 again because I the request was reliability. Obviously, and the motor it came with was a pretty decent build motor. I mean, it was already a high torque motor out of the box. So, you know, why spend more money where you don't need to spend it? Run that motor till it dies, and it's super easy to replace further a couple years down the road. You know what I mean? And then maybe you get into a more like a meaner motor, but you just don't need to. I mean, it's already high torque. Just run it till it dies, essentially. Um, the the tappet plate looked good. There was no like crazy excessive wear. Um, as far as the compression goes on the stock build, I attempted the compression build and it just immediately deflated. So I'll go ahead and pop up the video here of the new. So this is the new one, And when I first start to compress it here, I'm going to kind of struggle to get the good seal with the tip of my finger. But then once you see it seal, I put some pressure on that thing and it doesn't budge. So right about here, I'm really starting to give her the beans. And I'm like, okay, well, how much beans until this thing, and then boom, like it slips out of the way. So when this thing goes to chug a BB out of the barrel, we're talking as efficient as possible is what I was shooting for. And so end result is you have this snap-on metal drill bit set that I was using as a backstop for BBs and 30 BBs. And I didn't even realize it, but I was shooting through the metal and it bent a couple of my bits on the inside of the container. So we'll put that on my tab. Um, this right here is just as I was shimming the gears, I was really starting to get it zeroed in. And this is like a paint, an airbrush for like models. So it's not a particularly powerful airstream. Normally when I do these, I do like a can of computer keyboard air duster, and that's a way more powerful airstream. And this thing, it comes out super light just to apply paint, and it can turn, those gears are turning. So, and as a part of shimming, I make sure that there's virtually no slop, no movement between the gears once that engine or the motor pinion gears in there. So, I'm pretty impressed with that shim job. Uh, Definitely looking forward to buying the tool that makes that easier. And then, so the barrel conversation. Typically, your barrel is a barrel. Um, if the, I don't know, I've seen some brass barrels that don't really like have bad striking, and I almost wonder if that's just 'cause more so the hop up or the quality of BBs that people were running. But this, and so I say that because typically if it's like, if it's a .03 or .02 millimeter barrel, like I just say run it. I mean, run it until it gets abused down the road, and then maybe think about it, unless you're like trying to do like some crazy snipey boy stuff. But this barrel was low quality, I gotta say. We'll go ahead and hit the video, and again, I don't know how many games you guys ran this from, or ran this on, but I was told that it was not that many. And I'm gonna get in here with the thing, you'll be able to see there's a lot of scoring on there. Like that barrel looks like it's been a couple years of use, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, with the barrels I run, that level of wear for me is just like icky. So I made the call, tighter barrel. We'll do a stainless steel barrel, do the Prometheus with the R hop, blah blah blah, and hopefully, theoretically, you'll get a lot more accuracy and consistent reliability. You know, with the tighter bore though, and with everybody, with every gun I make, I always tell everybody, please, for the sake of both of us, just run better quality BBs. I mean, you should already be doing that, but some people are quite YOLO with a lot of things, and I just gotta say, if I'm tightening up your barrel, like do us both a favor and just get the nicer BBs. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. That was my whole thought process. I mean, everything you see on the shopping list is your um, pretty atypical suit me up uh, on the list. So again, just say Prometheus and Lonex. And then if they ask about the hop up, just say Matrix CNC. It's pretty much the best of the best, in my opinion, for electric. Unless you want to spend like stupid amounts of money for over-engineered advertising that pound for pound doesn't really stand up for its claim for how much money you're spending. I mean, you could be that guy. So here we go. All right, well, get it out there, run it. Let me know how it fails miserably, and I'll walk you through how to fix a gun I just broke for you.